In almost every Chinese soup and French white sauce, a pale, invisible spice is quietly calling the shots. Today, we are following white pepper's secret journey, from jungle vines on the Malabar coast to a tiny Indonesian port that once flavored half the world. On the steep slopes of Kerala's western Ghats, wild pepper vines have climbed toward the canopy for millennia. In the filtered light beneath jackfruit and fig, Piper nigrum thrived, drawing strength from the monsoon's steady rains. Long before merchants set sail for Malabar, local farmers shaped the land to suit the vine, cutting terraces into red earth, channeling rainwater, and training pepper up living poles. These growers learned to read the forest, pruning vines and tending roots through each wet season, their methods shaped by the demands of the hillside and the rhythm of the rains. Pepper was never just a crop. In village life, it held a place in ritual and daily routine. Temple records from Kerala's dynasties list pepper among the most valued offerings, given as dana to mark festivals or seek blessings. Ancient palm leaf deeds show pepper as a taxable asset, prized alongside rice and coconut in royal tribute. Even language carries its legacy. The Sanskrit Pipali traveled from India to Greece and Rome, echoing in the word pepper itself. Ayurvedic texts, centuries old, describe pepper as medicine, mixed with jaggery for digestion, or pressed into poultices for aches. In kitchens, it joined ginger and tamarind to flavor curries, its heat as familiar as the monsoon. Palynological studies, ancient pollen preserved in mud, confirm pepper's cultivation here stretches back at least 3,500 years. Both forest and archive agree. Malabar was pepper's cradle, its earliest stewards the terrace farmers, who still, in places like Wayanad and Kannur, pass down old methods by hand, keeping a living thread that ties the present to the ancient hills.
White pepper starts as a ripe red berry, picked only at the peak of maturity. Unlike black pepper, which dries straight from the vine, white pepper's journey is slow and hands-on. The berries are soaked for 2 to 3 days in cool, mineral-poor water, often river or spring water, chosen for its purity. This soaking is not just about softening the fruit. Enzymes and gentle fermentation loosen the red skin, making it possible to separate it from the seed. Even a hint of iron in the water can stain the seeds or dull their flavor, so farmers sometimes travel miles to find the right source. When the skin is ready, skilled hands take over. Workers rub the soaked berries between their palms or underfoot on woven mats, coaxing the skin away without cracking the seeds. The process is slippery and exacting. Too rough and the seeds split, too gentle and the skin clings. In some villages, this step becomes a communal effort, passed down through generations. The bare seeds are rinsed, then spread in the sun for 5 to 7 days. Each morning and afternoon they are turned by hand to ensure even drying and to prevent mildew. A sudden rainstorm can undo days of work, sometimes forcing another round of soaking. When the weather holds, the result is a small yield of creamy white peppercorns, lighter and earthier than their black counterparts. This careful soaking, rubbing and sun-drying is what makes white pepper rare and valuable. Every handful reflects hours of skilled labor and patience, turning a simple berry into a premium spice. Pepper moved along the Indian Ocean like a secret currency, each port adding its own price and layer of mystery. Calicut, Kozhikode, was the main export hub. Its docks were crowded with bales of pepper bound for distant tables. From there, Arab dhows carried the spice north to Kochi and Baipur, where Mapila Muslim merchants handled the cargo, washing and sorting each batch. The journey continued across the sea to Aden, then overland to Jeddah and up the Red Sea, where Ottoman officials imposed customs in pepper, not coin. Every stop meant new hands, new taxes, and another notch on the price ladder. Venetian records from the late 1400s show pepper bought in Calicut for about 8 ducats per cantara, but by the time it reached Venice the price had more than doubled,
Middlemen from Arab, Persian, and Indian communities controlled each leg, guarding the secrets of cultivation and processing. Their monopoly was not just about profit, it was about power. In Kerala, pepper appeared in dowries and tax ledgers, a marker of status and a tool for negotiation. In Europe, it became so valuable that debts and even ransoms were settled in peppercorns. The farther the spice traveled, the more its value grew, and the more determined the merchants became to keep its origins hidden. Travelers' tales from the old spice routes are full of warnings, some more creative than others. One legend, repeated in Arabic and Persian travelogues, claimed that the pepper forests of Malabar were guarded by deadly snakes. Anyone foolish enough to pick the berries without permission would find themselves face to face with these venomous sentinels. Another story, just as dramatic, insisted that the forests themselves would burst into flames if an outsider tried to harvest pepper. According to this myth, only local hands knew the secret to coaxing the berries from the vines without triggering disaster. Everyone else risked a charred jungle and empty pockets. It's hard not to smile at the image of a merchant spinning such yarns over a pile of pepper sacks, especially when the real danger was probably more about profit than pythons. These myths served a purpose. They kept rivals at bay and justified the high prices charged at every port. The farther pepper traveled from Malabar, the more mysterious and expensive it became. Venetian buyers paid triple what it cost in Calicut, and none were any wiser about the true, rather unremarkable origins of their prized white spice. The secrecy wasn't just about keeping the competition out, it was about keeping the monopoly in. Sometimes I wonder what those Venetian traders really thought. Did they picture a jungle alive with snakes and smoke? Or did they suspect, as we do now, that the only real magic was in the merchant's storytelling? In 1498, Portuguese caravels rounded the Cape of Good Hope and dropped anchor at Calicut. For the first time, European ships bypassed the old Arab and Venetian middlemen, sailing straight to the Malabar coast to bargain with the Zamorin for pepper, black and white, both from the same twisting vine. The direct sea route slashed costs and let Portugal funnel tons of pepper, including the rare white kind, directly to Lisbon's warehouses. Spices once dribbled through a dozen hands, now poured into Europe's ports by the shipload. But monopoly is a fleeting thing. The Dutch East India Company, hungry for control, followed the Portuguese blueprint but added firepower, forts, blockades, and forced sale contracts. By the 1600s, Dutch ships patrolled the Indian Ocean, and their agents began pushing pepper cultivation eastward, away from the crowded Malabar hills. British traders soon joined the fray, planting their flags on new estates and encouraging local farmers to transplant vines to fresh islands. Pepper seedlings traveled in the hulls of Dutch and British ships, taking root in the volcanic soils of Java, Sumatra, and most fatefully, Bangka Island. The Dutch, always methodical, handed out saplings to Chinese planters on Bangka, betting that the island's monsoon climate would yield a steady supply. It worked. By the early 18th century, the story of white pepper was no longer just a Malabar tale. It was drifting east toward new hands, new soils, and a new center of gravity. On Bangka Island, the rhythm of white pepper production follows the monsoon, but the payoff is something else entirely. Here, the port of Muntok became a crossroads where barrels of pale, uniform peppercorns left for Batavia by the ton. Dutch East India Company records from the early 1700s list annual exports topping 1,500 pekels, about 75 metric tons, of white pepper, a scale that turned this sleepy island into a global flavor factory. The secret? Bangka's sandy soils and long dry season meant sun-drying could be finished in just 4 days, locking in a delicate, almost floral warmth. Local processors, mostly Chinese and Malay, soaked fully ripe berries in carefully sourced well water, then hand-rubbed the skins away, leaving seeds that looked like tiny pearls. The taste is subtle, a gentle heat, hints of citrus, and a clean finish that lingers without the blunt punch of black pepper. No wonder traders and chefs alike started asking for Muntok by name. A chef in Shanghai reaches for white pepper when clarity matters, no dark flecks in a delicate fish soup, just a slow-building warmth that lingers behind the broth. In Paris, a sauce veloute gets its subtle bite from the same pale grains, chosen precisely because they vanish into the cream. The world's best kitchens still treat white pepper as a tool of restraint and invisibility, favoring its clean heat over the brash punch of black pepper. But not all white pepper is equal. Bags stamped Muntok, Sarawak, or Kampot now fetch a premium, each promising a distinct aroma shaped by soil, rainfall, and tradition. Protected origin labels are more than marketing. Chefs and importers track these details, paying double for pepper that is sun-dried and hand-rubbed in Bangka or Borneo. Industrial batches, stripped by machine and hurried through drying tunnels, often lose the floral top notes and develop a musty edge. In taste tests, the difference is clear. Artisanal white pepper delivers a brighter, more complex aroma, with hints of citrus and hay, while the bulk product fades into blandness. For many, that's reason enough to seek out the origin, to ask about the water, the drying mats, the hands behind each grain. I sometimes wonder how many diners know that the invisible heat in their soup carries the story of a place, a process, and a quiet rivalry for the world's most subtle spice. Today, white pepper's journey hides in plain sight, every bit as complex as the flavors it brings. As chefs chase terroir and growers fight for protected origins, a quiet spice still steers global taste. Sometimes the world's power moves with what we barely notice. What else lies unseen on our plates?